So I've just done some groundwork with Zara, got her sillies out. She always comes out here and she has a bit of attitude to start with some energy to burn, so we've done that. Now, yesterday I rode her with spurs on for the first time, and she did really, really well. I was struggling to get a little bit of good lateral movement out of her with my heel only, so I kind of bit the bullet yesterday and put the spurs on her. Today I'm just going to recap, and I thought it would be good to show you guys how I go about putting spurs on a horse for the first time. Now, I know she had them on yesterday, but I always take it the first few rides like they've never had them on before, because they're not used to having the spurs there, and I don't want to catch them and end up in a huge bucking frenzy. So to start with, I'll just get this out of the way, I don't need this. To start with, I will use them in a manner that I would if I was riding her, so I'll get her to side pass. So I'm going to apply the spurs here. She wants to walk backwards. Good girl. Good. So this is more about just making sure that she remembers what these spiky things feel like. I'm going to ask her to move her hip, so I spur back where my foot would be. Good girl. When she takes the right step, I take it off. I don't necessarily do that while I'm riding. You know, you don't press and take it off, press and take it off. You sort of hold it until you get what you want or what you require. However, when I'm teaching on the ground, especially because Zara's had a little bit of issues with her hip, moving her hip around. Good girl. So I will push a little harder than I have to on the ground just to make sure they're used to it. In case I accidentally grab them with the spurs when I'm on them, I want to make sure that they're not going to ditch me. So here, I'll come onto this side now. Good girl. So I'm going to use my spur this side. Good. There. Good. So you see, I use the reins the same sort of way I would use when I'm on her back. I like to put her in a bit of a bind and use those spurs so she remembers what we were just talking about. Now she's coming off my leg. If I don't need to use my spurs, good girl, Zara. I don't actually need to use my spurs. I will not use them today, and that'll give me confidence to hop on tomorrow without them. Zara is going to be ridden with a different kind of spur. I use my Western spurs, but I know in English they use little blunt dummy spurs or little shanked spurs without rowels. So I'm very aware of that, which is a little bit why I was a little bit reluctant to put spurs on Zara to start with. However, I just didn't want her becoming dull to my leg. Good girl, Zara, that's lovely. And I wanted to send her home with a little bit of lateral movement. So here she's running off my leg. I don't want her to do that. So here I want her to bend. There, good girl, Zara. There you go, good girl. Good girl. So that's the reason I put the spurs on with Zara, because I really wanted to be able to pick those shoulders up when I'm doing. This week I wanted to straighten her up a little bit. She's reasonably balanced already, but I really just wanted to get her in a position where I could pick her up and move her body around and start manipulating her to give her owner a good starting point when she gets her home. And I'm really impressed with what Zara is offering again. She's so here she wants to drop in, and I just pick her up. She picks these things up so quickly. I'm so impressed with this mare. She's going to be so much fun to work with. Her owner's just going to have a ball with her, I think. Good girl. So when I bend her, so she's bent the right way. So I just put my outside leg on her there to stop her drifting. But here, inside leg, and I just kind of block her forward a little. Beautiful work, Zara. And I just love how she moves those shoulders out. Oh, come through the center. You might notice we've also had a bit of a bridle change, so I've got a different bit on Zara now. I've got her in just a brass D snaffle. The mouthpiece on the one I use initially when I break horses is quite thin. Some horses need the thin bits and other horses are soft and responsive without the thin bit. And Zara was one of those horses, so I've stepped her up to a slightly thicker mouthpiece with a brass mouthpiece to sort of keep her interested in it, keep her mouthing it. So I'm just going to push. Oh, you're a good girl. I love it. Here, and then we push. I'm going to push her hip. See how her hip's lagging? I'm just going to keep pushing. She's going to take out that cone. Push. She didn't get her hip over. So what I'm going to do, turn around and I'll go again. There, good girl. Good girl. That was lovely. So we're in the teaching stages. What you'll end up finding is you'll get shoulders or you'll get hip, and one of them will lag. It's just a matter of breaking that down for them. So Zara knows how to move her hips and she knows how to move her shoulders. So if she's lagging, see right here, she's leaking through the shoulder and she's not moving her hips. So I'm going to bind her up and push those hips around. Yeah, she's still moving the shoulders. So she's a bit confused. There, good girl. So they've got the hips moving. So now we move her out, and then I ask again. So there, she's there, good girl, good girl. So if she had have got stuck again and just moved those shoulders, I would have bound her up again, moved the hips, and then step out and ask again. Good girl. So Zara moves better one way than the other. She does that on the ground too. Here, move her hips. I want more hip. See how she's leaving her hip behind? You're moving those shoulders. There, I'm going to move those hips around, let her out, come back. She's leaving the hips behind again. There we go. Good girl. Good girl. So if the shoulders was getting sticky and she kept giving me her hips, then I would put her in a pivot. Good girl. Good. And I would move those shoulders around. So Zara's quite good with the shoulders. She gets sticky in her hips. I'll do it this way now. What you do on the left, you do on the right. There, she's a bit stuck. Good girl, good girl. So what you need to, Zara came above the bit and got a bit above herself there. If I was to keep that pressure on when she's like that, there's a good chance she would rear up, and if you kept pulling, flip over. So what you need to learn to do is not amplify the pressure anymore. When they do that, when they lift that to that level, keep the pressure there, don't take up any more rein, and just wait till they come back down. And as soon as they come back down, you release the pressure. Girl, Zara. There. Perfect. Good job. So, being able to manipulate your horse's body like this allows you to straighten them or to bend them as you need. So now that I can move Zara's hips, I can move her shoulders and I can move her rib cage, there's not a lot I can't do with Zara. I'll push her forward, good girl. See how she lifts up into that? She lifts her back, lowers her pole. That's because I'm asking with my legs and I'm just backing that up with my hands. I'm not taking a lot of her face. She does that naturally. As she lifts her back, her pole comes down. Good girl. So now, Zara's circles are looking a lot better. She's a lot straighter in the shoulders. And the more I work on those shoulders and the more I work on the hips, the straighter she'll become. Good girl. Good. We'll change directions. So as I change directions, I use my legs, change my inside leg. And she changes the arc in her body. So here she's wanting to drift in. Good girl. girl, Zara. So on this side, she wants to leak out a little. If she's leaking out too much through the shoulder, out of the circle, I'll just shut that outside leg a little bit. Seat, driving my seat, putting energy into my seat, and my legs are picking her belly up to try and help her lift her back and stay in frame. Oh, good girl, Zara. So here, I'm going to make this circle small, so use that outside spur. I'm going to wind her down. Good girl. By using that outside instead of the inside, now I'm going to make my circle bigger and wind her out. So instead of using my inside leg and just using more rein to make my circle smaller, I'm keeping that shoulder nice and straight by using my outside. So here she wants to come in, I'm pushing, good girl. Good. Oh, keep going. Good girl. And this cane. So once again, I'll make my circle smaller, so I'm going to use my outside leg and wind her in. Not use more rein. Keep that shoulder nice and straight. Here, change her shape. Good girl. What I might see if I can... We were doing a little bit of this yesterday. See if I can't come in. Good girl. Oh, good girl. Good girl. Wrong leg, sweetheart. Good girl. Steady, good.